Hi, everyone. This is your host, Raven Syed, and welcome back to Forgotten Echoes, a podcast where we dive into the mysterious and unexplained cases of Black women and girls that often get lost in time. So, quick update that literally no one asked for. I am feeling so much better. I was in the thick of it last week. I was congested. I had a cold. Between that and just seasonal allergies, it almost took me out, but I'm feeling so much better now. I also got a puppy a few weeks ago, so I'm completely obsessed with him, but it's also come to my attention that I might be allergic to him. So there was that too. So if you have any tips on how to get through with being allergic to one of your dogs, because I'm now a dog mom of two, go ahead and let me know in the comments, DM me, all the things. But I'm feeling so much better. So really happy to be here today. Let's see. What else do I have? I know I see this almost every episode, and it's starting to feel like I'm talking to myself at this point, but show me that you're listening to this and comment below your favorite part of the episode, or even just something you like to see in the cases I cover. I'm totally open to constructive criticism as I'm new here, specifically 15 episodes deep being a podcaster, and I'm just trying to grow and evolve this podcast. So any tips, comments, concerns, all the things, let me know. I love to hear from you. And once again, I said it last episode, but thank you so much. Hitting 1,000 downloads and a little over 1,000 listens means the world to me. And it's just so remarkable to see how you guys consistently show up, whatever capacity that it is. Once again, just thank you so much for that. Also, if you have a case request, please send them to forgottenechoespodcast@gmail.com. I've actually got a couple, and they're so appreciated. One of those actually being today. So please go ahead, send those over. I'd love to hear from you. And with that being said, you'll notice today's episode is a little shorter than normal. I've come across a few cases thus far that have been sent to me. Thank you again. And a lot of them don't have a lot of information. So while I love it if each case had an abundance of reporting and information and clues, most of the time that's just not the case. And I've learned that these cases deserve just as much advocacy, if not more. So please send them over, no matter how big or small the cases are. I want to hear from you. Now, with that being said, let's jump into today's episode. So today we delve into a mysterious disappearance of 23-year-old Marlisha Love, a young woman from St. Louis, Missouri, who seemed to vanish into thin air in early 2023, leaving behind so many questions with little to no answers. This is episode 15, The Disappearance of Marlisha Love. Sources for today's episode include TrueCaseFiles.com, The Charlie Project, FirstAlert4.com, MissingPeopleInAmerica.com, Name Us, and Marlisha's personal Facebook. Now let's get into the case. It was January 6th, a typical Friday night. According to her mother, Marlisha told her she was going to a friend's house to get her hair done, which wasn't anything out of the ordinary. And while she did make it to her hair appointment, not much is known after, and that would be the last time her mother ever spoke to her. Marlisha Imani Love was born on March 16th in 1999 to Mother Tisha Hale in St. Louis, Missouri. I couldn't find too much information about her, hence the shorter episode, but I did creep on her Facebook and Instagram, and she seemed like a young girl who loved to have fun. She was super spontaneous and loved to talk. And I say that because she posted multiple times a day, if not all day. And that's really funny because one of the few things I did see that her family and friends agreed on was that she was really funny and extremely talkative. Now, just going through her Facebook, it looks like she attended Confluence Preparatory Academy in St. Louis and later worked as a medical aide at Mary Rider Home, a local senior care facility. I'm not sure how recent that information is because, after all, it is Facebook, but that's from her personal account. But I thought it was worth mentioning because this work speaks volumes to who she was as a person. A young woman who chose to dedicate her time to caring for others. She was community-minded, compassionate, and living independently in the city at the time of her disappearance. Her choice of career suggests that she was driven not only by purpose, but by empathy, which shines through so many of her posts on social media. She also seemed to love tattoos, as she had several, and she loved the fact that she was a Pisces and reminded people about it consistently, which is understandable as a Taurus myself who loved to shout it from the rooftops, so same. Overall, it just seemed like she had a good head on her shoulders and was just looking to level up and advance in her life. Friends and family recall Marlisha as reliable, responsible, and deeply loved. Her mother emphasized that it was extremely unusual for Marlisha not to return home or at least to check in and give her some type of update. She was the kind of person who followed up, who responded to text messages quickly, who made sure the people who loved her knew where she was and that she was okay. So on January 6th, when she went missing with no word to the people closest to her, it was really alarming. At this point, her family and friends are extremely worried. But Marlisha was 23 at the time of her disappearance, a grown woman. And heads up, there's some conflicting statements here because it's not clear she lived at home or she lived on her own. And this is just between source material and what I saw on her personal Facebook account. So I can't confirm either way. But what I do know is that when I was 23 and I moved back home periodically after undergrad, I remember being gone for a couple days without filling my family in all the time. So that's what I'm thinking Tisha, her mother, was thinking at the moment. But fast forward 3 days and her mom, Tisha, had enough. Marlisha still hadn't returned home and her phone was going straight to voicemail at this point. Her mom officially reported her missing to the St. Louis Police Department January 9th. An emphasis on officially because in many reports I've seen, they say she went missing January 9th. When she actually went missing the 6th, it just wasn't reported until 3 days later. Now, when the search kicked off, police pretty much immediately hit a wall because there wasn't a ton to go off of. But here's the little that police know, or at least what they share with the public. Reports show that Marlisha had spent part of the day with a friend named Montrella Worthy. According to Montrella, after getting their hair done, Marlisha asked to be dropped off at the White Castle at the corner of Del Mar Boulevard and Kings Highway around 8:50 p.m. And this tracks because her mom did say that she would be getting her hair done with a friend. Now, Montrella told police she saw Marlisha get into the passenger side of an older model white Chevy Suburban or possibly a Silverado pickup truck with a camper shell. She wasn't exactly sure as it was dark outside. And then the vehicle drove off. She never knew who was driving, and apparently Marlisha never mentioned it. And she never got a license plate number or any information from the vehicle, so police were going off of a basic description of the car, but she wasn't even exactly sure about that either. And I'm just going to throw in there that if you're listening to this and your friend is going to get into someone's car that you don't know, or they're not telling you who they're going with, make sure you ask. And if they don't want to say anything, make sure you take a mental note or quickly jot down the license plate number because you just never really know. And I mean, I'm in no way blaming the friend whatsoever, but I think that as us women, especially Black women, we've got to do a better job at looking out for one another. Now, on the flip side, if you're the friend that just kind of does your own thing, either keep your location on or send your location to a few trusted people. And at minimum, just tell someone who you're going to be with, whether it's their name, a social media handle, something. Your life just might depend on it. And unfortunately, in this case, that was the last known sighting of Marlisha. One thing that police did note is that they weren't really able to account for Marlisha's last movements beside her friend's account of what happened that night. Surveillance footage from the White Castle doesn't show Marlisha being dropped off, nor does it capture her entering any vehicle. And as of today, there's no visual confirmation of her getting into the car or anything like that. I will say that there is surveillance footage floating around online that do show her having long braids and what looks like sweats, but I think this may have been from that night, but not necessarily from the White Castle. And as I dive deeper into the source material, it does seem like police do believe her friend because there's no reason for her to suggest that she was lying. But without any footage, witnesses, or corroborating statements from anyone else, it was hard to take that information and build on it. They didn't know where she went, they had no idea who she went with, they never found the vehicle she was in, and of course there was no footage as to which direction she went in. It literally was like she vanished in a thin air. And I know I say that all the time, but man, this case just feels different. It's really eerie. Now, authorities have released a few details about the investigation. One being that her phone last pinged on the 3000th block of Kemp near the Velda Village Hills, which is around 10 minutes or so from the White Castle that her friend said that she dropped her off at. But after that, her phone couldn't be traced. At least that's the only ping police did share with the public. What I find really crazy about this case is that there are literally no suspects, or at least no suspects that have been publicly named. There's also no persons of interest that have been publicly identified. And that's pretty much all the updates we've had since 2023. So essentially the big question remains, who did Marlisha get into the car with that night? Since the car hasn't been identified, we can't track down the registered owner, and I believe that the missing link to the whole case is that unidentified driver. You find out who she went with, and you can probably solve the whole case. So it's unfortunate that no trace of Marlisha has ever been found. Marlisha's family has been pretty private when it comes to interviews, so just as fast as the case opened, it stalled. And I hate to say it because we don't know much of anything, but that's where this case ends. To sum up what we do know, at the time she went missing, Marlisha was wearing her hair in long braids, and she had a number of distinct tattoos, which her family hoped might identify her. She had a full sleeve covering her right arm and right leg, a key with the name Tyronia on her collarbone, lip prints on her chest, and the number 90 on her upper right shoulder. She also had her ears and tongue pierced. Despite her being missing for over 2 years now, Marlisha's case has received little mainstream media coverage. But those who care to continue to speak her name, organizations like the Black and Missing Foundation, have listed her case, urging the public to take notice and demand answers. Sadly, her story reflects a larger pattern at play here. Black women in America tend to go missing at a disproportionately high rate. Their disappearances often go underreported or aren't prioritized enough. Marlisha's case is one of many where urgency has come from grassroots advocacy rather than national headlines. In the weeks following her disappearance, police issued a public appeal for information. CrimeStoppers posted a $2,000 reward for tips leading to her recovery. Yet there has been very little progress in her case. Her family's pain is compounded by the silence. Their daughter is gone, and no one can tell them where she went, who she was with, or what might have happened after she stepped into that vehicle. So my final thought is this. There's a chilling lesson buried in this case. Ladies, don't let silence or distance be the reason someone you love disappears without a trace. Stay connected. Ask the uncomfortable questions. It's easy to slip into routines, to assume that because it hasn't happened to us, it never will. And I've been guilty of thinking that too. But danger doesn't announce itself, and it really creeps in when no one's watching. That's why the motto of this podcast is to stay vigilant and stay aware. Because if the media won't amplify our voices and investigators won't go that extra mile for us, then we have to do it for each other every single time. The truth is, it's disturbing seeing how many young women go missing under circumstances that just don't add up and, quite frankly, are preventable. So I'm urging you, trust your instincts, keep your people close, and if something doesn't feel right, say something. Sometimes that's the only line between someone making it home and not walking through that door again. Now here's the call to action. Marlisha Love deserves to come home. Her family deserves closure. Her community deserves the truth. If you know anything, no matter how small, you are urged to contact the St. Louis Police Department at area code 314-231-1212 or leave an anonymous tip with CrimeStoppers. And as I mentioned earlier, CrimeStoppers does have a $2,000 reward for tips leading to any information that leads to an arrest. And to those who never met Marlisha, remember her name, share her story, because awareness matters. And this podcast isn't just for anything. I don't just say these call to actions just to say them. It's to act, because pressure does matter. And sometimes the right person hearing the right story at the right time can make all the difference. Marlisha Love is not just missing. She's so missed. She's loved. And she's not forgotten. Sending light and love to the Love family. Thank you for tuning in to episode 15 of Forgotten Echoes. If you appreciate the cases I cover, download this episode and leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. And leave me a comment, shoot me a DM. I love to hear from you. And as always, thank you for your support. It really, really means the world to me. Also, don't forget to follow us on TikTok and Instagram for visuals on the cases covered. I'm Raven Syed, and I'll see you next week with another case that needs to be remembered. Stay vigilant, stay aware, and keep the echoes of the forgotten alive. I'll see you soon.